Hi, my name is Mirochnik, and for my research proposal plan, I have chosen the topic of personality. More specifically, I've chosen to look at intolerance of uncertainty. In my background, I talked about why I think the study of intolerance of uncertainty is important and some of the current literature, which is out right now. So in this fast-moving, innovative and busy world, there is little certainty of the future. So intolerance of uncertainty is actually a relatively recent personality dimension, and it can be defined as negative thoughts, feelings, and behaviors of an individual associated with events and possibilities that possess little certainty. I think that this research is incredibly important right now because of the COVID-19 pandemic, where we're pretty uncertain as to whether we're even going to be able to leave our house today. So most of the past literature has focused on a range of psychological disorders: depression, OCD, general anxiety disorder, social anxiety, and they're generally considered predictive factors in the evolution of IU. So it can be categorized into two dimensions: prospective IU, which involves cognition related to intolerance of uncertainty, and inhibitory IU, which is behaviorally focused. So that sort of affects the way you behave and act. So different disorders may involve different dimensions. For example, in Carlton's study, he found that panic disorder involves inhibitory IU because it actually stops people from being able to go out and do things because they're so wrapped up in their own uncertainty. Another thing that's been researched is Boland's study, where he finds whether social anxiety creates a variance in IU. But because he had quite a few extraneous variables in his study, the generalizability of it has been limited. And some of those extraneous variables were the fact that his study contained mainly females. Almost all his participants were at least educated or highly educated. And they'd all just come from another study, which involved losing a person very important to you 18 months or longer ago. And they all experienced grief. So the generalizability of that is definitely limited. Most of the literature shows a relationship between intolerance of uncertainty and anxiety-related disorders, but there actually is quite a bit of disagreement as to whether depression creates variance too. So Carlton, in another study, found a trans-diagnostic correlation with IU. That means that he found that it almost affects every single mental disorder. But others, like in Boland's study, found that depression has no variance in his scale of intolerance of uncertainty. But because there were limitations in both studies, there definitely needs to be more research to discern whether depression is considered a predictive factor for intolerance of uncertainty. So for my literature gap, I noticed that lots of the studies talk about the predictive factors of mental disorders, but very little focused on everyday lifestyle. So I decided to look at routine. And I'm proposing that routine could actually have an effect on your intolerance of uncertainty. If you don't have a consistent routine, why would you have? You may actually have less tolerance of uncertainty. So my aim for the study is to examine the effect of consistent working routine, that is, you either work a full-time or a part-time job, on intolerance of uncertainty. This study will hypothesize that intolerance of uncertainty is higher for people with an inconsistent routine, so if they are working part-time or casually, than for people with a consistent routine, so they're working full-time. Thank you for listening.